Hey, fella.
Binaural beats or binaural. I say binaural.
Binaural, like N-E-U.
Binural.
Binaural.
Binaural.
Huh.
So like I'm wearing headphones right now,
Yeah.
and basically a different tone is being played on each side. So one is being played on the right, one on the left, and then your brain interprets it as another tone, like they mix.
Uh-huh.
And that new tone can supposedly put your brain in different states. So alpha, theta, delta,
yeah.
depending if you want to focus.
You've put me onto some like theta naps.
Yeah. So basically that.
Which are outstanding.
So, those naps are binaural beats.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
That's
because they do the beep, boop.
And then do you hear like a different tone?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's binaural beats.
It's outstanding. If you want a theta nap,
some of the most restful naps I've ever
and
had.
You just wake up.
There's an 8-hour one for sleep. If I had 8 hours to sleep, I swear to God,
I
would
took
try.
a 45-minute theta nap.
Was it good?
Gracias, thank you.
So they have focus ones too. So like I'll play that underneath music that I'm playing.
And you know what? They're super accessible. You can find them on YouTube.
The tubes. Yeah. And on I have like Amazon Music, I have Spotify Music, I have
tubes.
I've never heard anybody call it that before.
Look them up on the tubes.
On the tubes, binaural beats. Get it.
Welcome back to the More in Common podcast, a place for genuine, authentic conversation where we explore the fact that we have more in common than that which divides us. And once again, it's me, producer Ruff, letting you guys know it's still Black History Month. With that being said, I got another quote for you guys. This time it's from American classic icon, singer, legendary Etta James. And she said, "My mother always told me, even if a song has been done 1,000 times, you can still bring something of your own to it." I'd like to think I did that. Now, isn't that something special? We also have another review for you guys. Speaking of special, the reviewer, It's Like a Volcano. I guess that's a reviewer name. Real conversations are fun. I wish I could have a conversation like this every day. It's an awesome experience to talk to Keith and Rodney for an hour about things that matter. They have created a great platform with more in common to help all of us normal people feel connected to the real conversations. I appreciate what they're doing and highly recommend subscribing. Thanks for the experience, guys. Don't know, it might be one of our former guests, but don't forget, this first season that we're doing in 2020 is all about a decade possible. And this first initial season is all about pursuit. Remember, you can find all things More in Common at moreincommonpod.com, our episodes, merchandise, and our blog. And definitely, if you like what you hear, give us a like on your favorite podcast app and leave a review, and we'll try to read it on air. Today, we are with Erica Taylor Haskins. We are with her. She is the co-founder of Tinsel Experiential Design, and she's an incredible woman. We discuss how to manage an exclusive environment, managing judgment in the face of honesty, and the transition from corporate to entrepreneurship.
Of letting people go so they can go to better experiences or better opportunities. So it's not, I think we all kind of like, oh, someone got fired, someone got laid off, and it's like, I feel bad for them. They're like, they're dead now. They don't exist in this reality anymore. And it's not that. It's not like we're, putting someone literally on the chopping block, but it's flipping it and knowing that you're letting them free to go do something that actually is a better fit for them. First part is what parts of your current culture, and whether that's at a company or even, in your household with your family, what parts of the culture feel really right and matter and have a big impact. And then the second piece of that is what do you think needs to change or be added to be more beneficial and productive. Our team has an event in a couple of days for Teen Vogue, where Miss Anna Wintour is showing up, And to me, again, like that's such a moment of like my little Erica self is like, holy shit, like it's a Vogue party and Anna Wintour is going to be there. But the unglamorous part of that is like I'll also be like eating takeout Chinese in the back on cardboard boxes probably at some point. That it's like I'm not like standing next to Anna, but I'll see her with my eyes. But it's super special. And again, something that I'm very cognizant of always is there are a lot of really dream venues that we get to work at a regular basis that I know so intimately and have been like deep in the hallways of, right? So something like the New York Public Library or a Cipriani's kind of space. It's so like sparkly and spectacular and like storied. And even if you've never set foot in New York City, like what that space is.
Welcome back, everybody. Today we are with Erica Taylor Haskins. She's the founding partner of New York City-based event production company Tinsel Experiential Design, formerly known as Tinsel and Twine. She is passionate about attending Broadway shows, enjoying nap time with a French bulldog, Mayhem, May for short, writing to Congress daily, and travel to soak in blue waters, blue skies, red meat, and red wine. Her business, Tinsel, is committed to redefining luxury events through the execution of imagination, immersive experiences for private clients and for brands like Mercedes-Benz, Spotify, L'Oreal, Condé Nast, some small brands that you may or may not have heard of. Tinsel has proudly produced events at iconic institutions like the New York Public Library, the Guggenheim Museum, the Rainbow Room, and One World Observatory. The team's work has been featured in Vogue, WWD, Forbes, and Town & Country, with the company named recently as one of the top 50 event designers in North America. Her experience has given her a deep understanding of how to leverage authentic relationships to reach target audiences. And if that's not enough for y'all, beyond Tinsel, Erica is the Northeast Regional Coordinator for the Jackie Robinson Foundation, a national nonprofit organization founded to perpetuate the icon's legacy through scholarship, leadership, and service. She was honored as one of the JRF's 42 under 40 distinguished alumni. She is committed to sharing her business journey with other aspiring entrepreneurs. Goodness, that's a mouthful. Hi, Erica. How are you?
Hi, guys.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to speak with you.
How you feeling?
I'm good. I'm glad it's Friday. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling strong into the weekend.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
I like it.
it's goodness.
So many places I want to start. How to pick one.
How?
So we'll ease into this one a little bit.
Okay.
And because really, like for us, as we build our organization to not only do this, which we think is incredibly important, but also working to help other organizations build, develop, and mature their culture. On your website, you talk about Tinsel having an environment that fosters creativity, collaboration, inclusion, and celebration.
Yeah.
Now that you're over 100 employees, you're crushing it. How do you maintain that culture so everybody feels it?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. It's something that we talk a lot about, and we actually recently just did an exercise with our core team. And our business coach referred to this as the Martian Challenge, where essentially taking small groups and smaller sub-segments of our team and saying, if a Martian landed on Earth and was like, tell me about Tinsel. What do you guys do? What are your customs? What are your rituals? What works here? What doesn't work? What would you tell them? And it was really interesting to see what people came back with. And generally across the board, it really resonated with what we as a leadership think are important to us. And then some other things bubbled up that we thought were super, super interesting. But largely, I mean, and when I say we, I often speak in the royal we like a crazy person, but it's with love that I have two business partners named Liz and Adette. And we've known each other for almost 18 years. We met in college and then started this business together 9 years ago. and become incredibly close. We have a weird twin speak and share a lot of weird tics together. So we, as a single entity, have always talked about the fact that in building our company, we wanted it to be a place where it would be a place where people could feel comfortable sharing their opinions and not feel like they're stepping on toes or they're saying the wrong thing at any given time because it's not the party line. And I often think about my past life before starting Tinsel when I worked in advertising, and I'd be in these conference rooms with my bosses or supervisors, and I would be terrified to be the first one to speak because, God forbid, I said the wrong thing and got like daggers shooting out of someone's eyes. And I never wanted our company to be that kind of place. We want people to be able to feel like they can come into work and, dress how they want to dress, that expresses their personality, that they can share what they did on the weekend without judgment, that they can be excited to spend time with other team members and even our clients outside of work and feel like they can be their real true selves and not put on a weird fake act based on what's quote unquote right. So that's always been really important to us. And, likewise, we are a predominantly female company and a lot of different backgrounds represented, but really important for us to make sure that our company was a place where people felt empowered and really supportive of other people. And I think when we first started and really started bringing on team members, there was a little bit of this sisterhood dynamic, and I say this in a loving way, although it's going to sound a little bit derogatory, but it almost felt a little bit sorority row-ish, where we're like, yeah, we're here, and, kind of have like our place. And we've grown up, so we try to make sure that it still feels like a place of work in a professional environment, but still, it's a place where we play music and we have dogs around and people feel like they can joke and have fun and just make sure it's an environment that people enjoy coming to instead of having Monday scaries.
Question.
Yeah.
I love that. I love the Martian concept and like asking that question to get to what people think is the culture. Probably going to steal that. We'll credit you. We'll credit you, but I'm probably going to steal it.
I know. It's like a 4th degree credit, so you don't have to name drop me.
Your business coach probably got it from somebody.
I know, exactly. Exactly.
Making an inclusive place where people can feel like they can share their weekend without judgment. Like that's not easy. And that question alone doesn't address that. So how do you actually make that real? And then to go a layer deeper, no, I won't even go a layer deeper. I'll just stop there. Like, how would you? Yeah, we're doing mind meld, right?
Mind meld. Mind meld to the microphone.
Twin thought.
Yeah, twin speak. I know.
And look, I'm putting you on the spot a little bit. Like, this is not
Please.
like I don't expect you to have like some magic solution. Although if you did, it would be great.
No, I deal in magic solutions. That's my job. But a lot of it has to come from leadership. So again, from us as partners and the people that maybe are a little bit more senior and tenured on the team, where, when we're comfortable being real humans and being a little bit vulnerable or at least being personal, it sets the tone that that's okay at our company, that you can say, there are times I come on, I'm like, you know what, I'm hungover today. I made the wrong decision last night, or, I worked too much over the weekend and that's not how I want to spend my personal time. That's not what we aspire to at this company. So I'm going to make a point and be very intentional about not plugging in nights and weekends this week. So again, I think it's been important for us to share what is the reality, but then again, I guess going a layer deeper, possibly presenting what that solution is for people. So setting the example and what's the positive spin, even if it's something that, okay, maybe this was not the greatest thing to share with my colleagues and my professional peers, but what's the valuable lesson there?
How do you manage? Go ahead, man.
Sorry. I think there is a magic answer actually, and you just nailed it. I think honesty from leadership is probably honesty and transparency to the point where it's where you're able to. I think that's the key to building culture. And Keith, go ahead, and then
I was just gonna say, because I think something you said in there, like how do you at Tinsel, you all manage the judgment component, right? Because that's the cultural piece, we talk about this with tech organizations, is helping manage that judgment piece that essentially says, I know I can come in here, but you can go in there and then have 99 other people judge you, and
Mm-hmm.
that'll hurt your culture.
Right.
And it will be a negative consequence. So how do you manage that? How do you grow that? Is it the three of you set the example, or is it how you hire? Like what's the...
Yeah, I mean, I think it's got to be a combination of both. I mean, to toot our own horns, we also pride ourselves on just hiring really good people. And when I say good, I mean good as in talented, but also good as in just kind. Like just surrounding and building the team, knowing that there are just really good, kind, generous humans is 75% of the equation. And I mean, without going into specifics, we've had other people that have come and gone as part of our team, and not because they weren't talented. And sometimes it hurt because people were especially talented, but just weren't a great emotional or cultural fit. And it just could not be. It could
So
not
just
be,
being
not
honest
in
with
my house.
that
Yeah.
realization.
Yeah.
Keith, real quick, what do you mean by managing judgment? Are you talking about internal or external judgment?
Both. I think it's, as a leader, you manage the culture of judgment, but
Yeah.
internally you also have to manage your own biases. So if one of your people come in and do that, like, I'm hungover today, like
Yeah.
being able to say that to the owner of your company, your boss,
Yeah.
and know that she's going to be cool with it.
Yeah.
Like, as long as I'm showing up and doing my job and it's
Well,
not
yeah.
affecting, like,
Exactly.
how do
I mean,
you
yeah.
personally manage that? I think it's a
Yeah.
great question. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, you nailed it too. As long as it doesn't inhibit what needs to happen for the business. I mean, I'm a cool mom. No, but I don't really care as long as like what needs to get done gets done.
Uh-huh.
And again, I think it goes back
Isn't that
to
a dangerous caveat though? Because like, let's say somebody in my family died, and I come in and I'm like, hey, somebody just died. Like, that's likely going to affect my work for the day.
That's the whole. That's
Well, but
outside
being
of our realm
hungover
of
is similar. Like,
control.
it's gonna affect how. I mean, realistically, it's
Yeah.
probably gonna affect how I
That's
work.
the whole. I mean, obviously, we've had moments where people have had family emergencies or personal things, and as a small organization, we at least have a good advantage to say, you know what, like you need to go take care of that, and we'll take care of business. I mean, that to me is a totally different thing. If you're coming in hungover, you still have to get your job done.
Yeah, and,
You have
and it's one
an
thing to come in
emergency.
hungover one time in 3 years. It's another
exactly.
thing to, it's like, hey, you do this every Monday. Like,
Yeah,
we got
Right.
a
that's
problem,
not
right?
Yeah,
That's not what we're
yeah.
talking
Now,
That's a
how
whole
do
other
you,
personal thing.
how do you, this is something that I think about a lot as
Well,
it relates.
quick. Wait,
Yeah.
hold on. So like, but the point I was trying to
Okay.
make
Oh.
there is like, if somebody's being honest about where their frame of mind is for whatever reason
Mm-hmm.
when they come in,
Mm-hmm.
to Keith's question about judgment, if I come in and I'm like, hey boss, XYZ, I'm not 100%, it's likely that, and the reason I would say that is because it's probably going to affect how I show up. So like, if I didn't get a good night's sleep last night, which was outside of my control, and I tell Keith like, yo, that thing that I owe you today, like, I'm probably not going to be able to get to it because blah, blah, blah. Like, he may not be happy about it, but
Yeah.
like, how does the
Yeah.
culture respond
I
to
mean,
it?
that's a
is
good
the-
question. I'd say we, knock on wood, haven't had to deal with that terribly consistently or often, but again, something that's really significant within our culture is setting expectations and being honest about those expectations. So I can't speak to that scenario specifically, but across the board, we have trained and mentored our team that it's their job to set expectations both with themselves, with clients, with vendor partners, or whoever the conversation's with, that it's okay to sometimes it's okay to miss a deadline, or sometimes it's okay, if someone asks for something by a certain date, that if you honestly can't make that happen and accommodate it, you have to get in front of it and solve the problem for them. You can't just not do it. So to your point, Rodney, if you're like, look, I'm not feeling great today, I've got the flu, whatever the circumstance is, like I'm just not 100%. I'm gonna be, a little slow on this thing, but I know I can get this to you by tomorrow o'clock, whatever. Is that okay? That, I mean, at least in the land of Tinsel, that's totally fair game. Again, as long as it doesn't impact the big picture. And a lot of our clients really appreciate that because everything is so time sensitive that, you know, just those little check-ins or those moments of honesty and sharing throughout the
Mm.
process. Because there are even times that I'm like, I know I owe something to someone 2 days from now, so they don't actually really care where I am in the process, but it's just part of the way that I work. There's just like, I just want to keep you posted. I'm like talking to this person and da da da. I'm still on track to get you the thing, just so that you have that like, phew, that exhale moment, and you're not lying awake like, I hope Erica is
I
taking care
wonder
of
if
that
she's
thing
doing
that I
it.
need
Yeah.
from my
Yeah.
boss. Yeah.
No, it's
I think that's
it's
key too, like the whole, like the expectations, setting them, and then just the fact that I think you something I think Keith, you and I try and do is like, hey man, I'm not 100%. Can I delay on this, or can you help me with it,
Mm-hmm.
or can somebody else help
Right.
with it, so
Yeah.
that the work, because that's the thing I think that's hard is the business, like just the numbers don't care about your feelings or how
Yeah,
you're doing,
exactly.
and they
Exactly.
have
Like
to
the
just
numbers don't
work.
care about your feelings. I'm gonna put that on a
But the
t-shirt.
culture does, because if the culture's not working, then the business can't work. So
I
Yeah.
think
No.
I think it's one of those things that often goes overlooked when thinking about culture is the impact of honest personal communication
Mm-hmm.
affects professional communication. Like your
Yeah, for
example
sure.
is a really clear one. It's, hey, I didn't sleep last night, my daughter. I'm not at the top of my game. And you're like, okay, so what are your deadlines today? Right? Like now we can have a conversation. Now I can go I feel okay telling my client, like, hey, are you good if I get this to you by tomorrow? And if they say no,
Right.
like we've got to figure out a solution, but we can
Yeah.
have that line of communication simply because, it's so common in business world. It's like separate. This is something I think we learned quite a few years ago in one of the trainings that we received, but this idea of work self and personal self, like keep personal
Mm.
Mm,
out of work. Well,
mm,
you can't,
mm,
especially with a lot of what we do. I work from home, or
mm-hmm.
I'm on a conference call and my kid runs into my room. Like these
well, and
things,
Right.
plus our brains just don't work like that.
they
Like we
just
don't just
don't. Yeah,
bifurcate the
Yeah.
we
day.
have an identity, and
Yes.
like
Exactly.
compartmentalizing it creates, you know,
Other issues.
other
Yeah.
issues and how you show up to work. So I
Yeah.
think that's awesome, and how you have that. Now, you also mentioned something about people, and there's a great book about principles by Ray Dalio, and he actually talks
Mm-hmm.
about the idea of he has this 2-year period. Like people are going to come in, they're going to get trained on our culture, they're going to learn
Yeah.
about our principles and values,
Uh-huh.
and some people are going to stick around, some people aren't, right? Like if it's
Yeah.
not for them, it's not their culture. Like
Yeah.
now, I think this is one of the most um, overlooked because it's probably the most insensitive piece of managing culture, is that not everybody's going to be a fit. It doesn't make them a
Yeah.
bad person. They're just
No, true.
not a fit for the culture that we're
Yeah.
trying to present. Like, so how
Yeah.
do you guys have a process around it? Is it a feel? Like, how do you manage that to make sure that, you're giving people a fair shot and at the same time, fostering your culture?
Yeah, and that's a great, great point. I mean, again, part of something that we talk about with our team, both related to our company specifically, but just in general as humans, is the idea of not burning bridges, right? Like we meet so many people across our industry. I mean, I feel like I literally talk to at least 20 new people every day, between vendors, between clients, etc. And you never know who knows who, or who's going to open a door for you, or who you'll cross paths with in the future. And as big of a city as New York is, it's a small town. It gets
Mm.
really small really quickly.
Especially in the design space.
Especially when you're in an industry, because
Uh-huh.
all industries are very, you keep
Uh-huh.
running into the
It's
same people
very
over and over and
insular.
over.
Yep. It's a wild that way.
Yeah.
So with that, I mean, again, we've had people that have come and gone and played different roles, but our goal is never to burn a bridge with someone. So whether they're not a good fit for that particular role that they were in at that time, or even where they were in their career and level of expertise, and who knows, in years from now, they might pick up other skill sets, etc. Or I think, again, to your point, Keith, the hardest thing is people that maybe just aren't a cultural or personality fit. And unless they are just really a terrible, shitty person, that's okay. If they're just a terrible, like, garbage human, then that's a whole nother story. But it's something that we've talked about with people that have come and gone with our team, just making it clear that like we're still cool. Like I like this person. I would love to grab a drink with that person. I'd love to sing karaoke with that person. We'll go dancing with that person. They just aren't quite the right fit for the mechanics of what our machine are. And again, I think what I love about our team and really appreciate is that everyone that's part of our crew right now really has the best interest of the bigger picture in mind. So even if someone has a personal relationship, but they're like, oh, I'm bummed that person didn't work out because they were, my sister friend at the company, they still understand that if they weren't a good fit for what we're all trying to achieve together, then that's okay too.
It's interesting, Keith, that you called it an insensitive part of culture and management. I think that's probably because it's not dealt with honestly in a lot of situations. Because
I would agree with that.
One of the best managers I've ever been coached by, she said to me the hardest part of her job is determining who is a fit and who is not a fit for the team, and having that frank conversation with them, like, hey, this team's not right for you. And she said actually when she actually gets to that point, 90% of the time the person knows it. They're like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, this isn't the right team for me. Yeah. And she saw it as her job to help them find the right job and find the right fit, whether it be in a company or somewhere else. Changing it from insensitive to extremely sensitive. Like, hey, because like nobody performs well when they're in the wrong position. Like that's just that's far more insensitive. Letting somebody struggle and drown and like everybody's like, man, you suck at your job. It's like, I know, but I gotta get a paycheck. I gotta get paid.
I know. I totally agree. I think people know, they can feel it. You feel it because you dread going to that place and you know that you're not being your 100%. So I don't think that I've ever had anyone that's been totally shocked when these transitions have happened. And actually there is a really phenomenal woman that I met at a conference last year named Cindy Novotny. And she's like C-suite professional sales coach for big organizations, but she talks a lot about this of the idea of letting people go so they can go to better experiences or better opportunities. So it's not, I think we all kind of like, oh, someone got fired, someone got laid off. And it's like, I feel bad for them. They're like, they're dead now. They don't exist in this reality anymore. And it's not that. It's not like we're, putting someone literally on the chopping block, but it's, flipping it and knowing that you're letting them free to go do something that actually is a better fit for them.
It's that culture. Sorry, Keith, real quick. It's that culture of like postmortem. Like something went wrong. Let's do a postmortem. It's like, guys, we lost a deal. Nobody died.
Yeah, I know. I hate that post.
Like, it's like, no. Like, let's learn from this and make it a good experience. Like, it hurts that we didn't win the $1 million contract, but why? And but since we treat it like a postmortem, we treat firing and like we treat all of it with that
something went wrong, not how do we make it better moving forward. And because we're big on looking back for learnings, but we call them retrospectives.
Far more.
So
that's
just
what we
looking
do.
Back to learn, but not now that this thing is dead, how do we dig it up and dissect it?
No, and when it comes to people, it's a good point because we do have this natural inclination to judge and say, oh, you're not good at this. You must not be good at anything. Right. Or I feel it. I'm not good at this, so I must not be good at anything. Whereas I like what you mentioned about the leader that you were referring to, Rodney, in saying like, this just might not be a good fit for you. Like, this is the culture that I'm trying to foster and facilitate. And ultimately, I don't know if that's, there's just doesn't seem to be a fit right now. Let's find something else, or here's what I think. What do you think? And making it more of a, I don't want to say a positive thing because it's not necessarily positive to lose your job, but if you can turn the direction of it from leaving and losing to positively gaining something different,
something better,
you can really change that impacts your culture. And you talk about not burning bridges.
Yeah, totally. And to that point, even, there again, people that haven't been the right fit for us for whatever reason, with the caveat of not the terrible people, the people that are good people, just not a good fit. We always offer and go as far as like, how can I help you? Or is there anyone that you want an introduction to? Like, what would you love to do? Like, what would make you feel really happy and inspired? And if we can make that introduction, happy to.
That's amazing.
Again, it's not ever that like, it's not that I don't like this person and
Sure.
I wish the worst for them. That's not ever
harm
it.
upon you.
Yeah, exactly.
Now there's a balance in this, and I think this is where large corporations struggle. And I'm curious to get your perspective.
Yeah.
We talk, because we work with tech companies, about diversity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what that actually means,
Yeah.
beyond just, the things you see. Perspective and experience are two very, very strong things in any organization that drive, a diverse population, because
Yeah.
they bring different experiences, and they just bring different perspectives that might improve or give you something that you never had before.
Right.
So the culture fit then has to be above that, right? Like, and how you manage that is a very difficult. Like, someone comes in they just don't seem like a good fit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you balance at Tinsel the diversity of experience and perspective with not being a culture fit, because they can get conflated.
Yeah. I mean,
Easily.
it's a little bit of a gray area, right? We have a metric system when we interview people, but it's never like, not like we grade on what would be included, diversity and inclusion factors. And it's not like we have a grading system for the just innumerable number of experiences someone can have.
Right.
But, and I guess too, when we think about diversity, it's not, I don't know, it's not defined and articulated so much like that, as much as like, I don't know, that's a hard one. I gotta think about that one.
But a potential challenge I see with that is like,
Yeah.
imagine it's a group of a homogenous group. I won't even just a homogenous group. And then you put someone who's polar opposite from an appearance, like on the surface, completely different than that homogenous group.
Yeah.
They will automatically appear to not fit with that group.
Yeah. So that's what I love about our team. I mean, again, we have the benefit of being in a certain city environment where I think just aesthetically and stylistically, a lot of us share
it's
different, we have that red thread, but we've got people on our team that are like super tatted up and look a little like hardcore, like punk scene. Some people on our team that are very preppy and like a little like, buttoned up cardigan, kind of like country club style. But when we talk about what we have in common and those shared things that make us the same type of creature, it's the more important stuff. Like when we talk about the value of like transparency and being just a really fucking hard worker, getting things done, problem solving, being able to be comfortable trying new things, those are the things when we are like, this is what makes Tinsel. This is when you're like, you're a Tinsel person, because you are, we talk about like grace under fire, right? Like what we do is so stressful. It seems silly a little bit, because what we do on paper is throw parties and throw events that are just fun.
That shit is not easy. No. Throwing a party that goes off without a hitch.
And if you're throwing it, you're not really enjoying it.
No.
You're not enjoying. You're not
and
partying.
There's that list that comes out every year that people in the events industry generally are in like fifth or sixth most stressful jobs, kind of sandwiched between like
which is crazy, because like number one is air traffic controller. Like it's like
I think we're above like heart surgeons, like all these things that you're like, that actually is life or death. But what we do, just by virtue of like every day is so different. There's always a new problem to solve. There's always a million factors of like weather, traffic, humans, like whatever.
Yeah.
So
Stress.
all that is to say, like the people on our team that fit eat that stress and consume it, and they're like, I'm still cool and I'm still nice and I'm still fun.
I think what you just said right there,
together.
like you're a Tinsel person. Like I think that scenario, that open, accepting, like I don't care what you look like, what you came from, blah blah blah. Like if you can live in this environment, like that's the ideal world of what companies would do. The problem and the reason why diversity is such a big thing is because like, well, there are groups that will exclude other groups from being able to join that party
Yeah.
And then on the other side of it, when you do add diversity metrics, that gets tricky as well, because you
Yeah.
like it.
They're checking a box.
Yeah, so you're not necessarily, so you may get somebody who's just as qualified to do it, but they may not fit the culture.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then nobody wins, because then they're
Yeah.
there like, oh shit, like
I think in a micro way, you defined the point where you up level the what the culture actually is. Like, we are a culture that works, that does, like, it's non-judgment if you come in and want to do it this way, but if you're not willing to be honest,
Yeah.
if you're someone who comes in and, let's be honest, like, we all do this from time to time, but there are certain people we've run into in our lives that constantly are negative and pessimistic. Like, I can work with you on
Yeah.
changing that, but at some point, your attitude is affecting everybody else's. It's bringing negative energy, right?
Yep.
That's not perspective, right? That's just
Yeah.
that those are dynamics of interaction and human connection that
Right.
define culture. And then everything else, in where you came from, the way you see that thing,
Yeah.
the way you see the world, can really find itself because
Yeah.
you've defined and set that culture up
Yeah,
by saying, this is
totally.
how we work, this is what we do,
Yeah.
and this is how we go about our business.
Totally. And again, with events specifically, I mean, by virtue of what we do, there are always problems to solve. Like, that is the job. It's not just throwing a party, it's solving problems.
Sure.
So what's funny is our team generally, as long as it's not too overbearing, our team loves that challenge of solving the puzzle, of like finding the fix. And the people that don't work here, like, can't get roadblocked by the problems. If it was easy, everyone could do this. So our
anybody
team,
could be on the team.
yeah,
Right.
exactly. Actually, one of our team members, Alexa, who's wonderful, and she's been with us the longest of any of our full-time people. She had a client once she was on a call with, and I had to go on mute because I was cracking up. The client was like, "Alexa, you always have a will." And she was like, "Yep, where there's a will, there's a way, and I always, always, always have a will."
That's awesome.
That's good.
I was like, "You need
I
that."
wanna-
I was like, "I want you to get that tattoo. Just always, always, always have a
Just
will."
always. I want to flip it real quick. I got a question
Yeah.
to go into. Yeah, Keith, we're doing it again. So there was this interview you did with Stone Fox Bride, and you
Oh, God,
defined
yeah.
yourself as
Just digging. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
That's what Keith is. That's what my man does here. You defined you said you were that weirdo kid always walking around with a notebook and sketching clothes. So
Yeah.
there's a couple questions here, but the first one is, when you say weirdo kid, is that young Erica talking to herself, or is that other people defining her?
Probably other people. I mean, and I guess not to go too deep into this, but I was never
go.
really. I mean, whatever. I was never really bullied, and I was lucky enough to go to a magnet school with other self-identified weird kids. So all of us found each other, all of us that, like, were book nerds, and and everyone had different things. Like, there's people into
High
science or
achievers. I get
into
it.
music. All of us, it was a school where, like, if you were in chorus and band and drama, you were the cool kids. And I was like, yes.
So then, therefore, you're
meant
no
to
longer a
be.
weirdo at that point.
Oh yeah, you're
Or you're like
inside that.
embracing what the outside world might say is weird. And
That's fair.
I always crack up when you see, movies about, like, middle school or high school, where, like, the band geeks get, well, they're called band geeks, first of all, but they get, shoved into lockers and all that. I'm like, that was so not my school experience. I just really loved my band friends. But I think I'm still a weird kid. I think I found all my weird kids and made them work for me. Invited them lovingly to work for me.
So Erica, is this then the secret? Find your
your
weird tribe and make them work for you, or work with them.
Yeah, the people that want to celebrate the weird. And actually, it's that's very much what our style is known as. I think part of it is that none of us at our company really came from events backgrounds, which is kind of an interesting thing. Everyone, my partner Odette and I were in advertising and marketing. Liz was a science teacher in Harlem, which is a wild and crazy thing to do. And then we've got people that worked in the museum and art world, people that worked in TV and set production and kind of things that are peripheral and adjacent to our world. But with that, we don't come with any preconceived notions of how our events should look and feel. We just kind of do what we think is cool and funny, usually funny. I was like, cool and funny. But that means, sometimes we just get really weird and outside of the box. And that's what people are coming to us for. But it's not just your usual standard, like beautiful, but basic event.
So I want to dig into that, but
Yeah.
because I have a question there. But before we do, like you went to this magnet school, so the weird
Hmm.
was embraced by the people that you cared about, your family,
Yeah.
your parents.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a question. Yeah.
That was like ellipses, dot, dot,
Observation
dot.
and question all rolled in without a question mark.
How cryptic. Yeah, definitely. I mean, again, my parents are always really proud of me for being an overachiever, and I think I came by it honestly. Where, both of my parents did really, really well in school. My mom in particular was her first integrated class of all of her schools, of elementary school, middle school, high school, college. So that came with its own pressures, I'm sure, to, perform and perform at a really heightened level. So, of course, when I, got to the point where I was in school and I, was excelling and what have you, I think they were really, really excited about that. And again, found a community of people that were really into their kids being really excited about class and really excited to be involved in extracurriculars. And, even to that point, I feel like now as an adult, I love extracurriculars and have a lot of groups that I belong to. It makes me feel like a whole person. And I know before we started recording, we're kind of chatting about being busy, and I always busy and enjoying being busy, but always make a point of it not just being busy at work, but busy doing things that I really enjoy. So, being able to like see friends and my involvement with the Jackie Robinson Foundation, finding ways to sing when I get to sing with random groups. So,
Because you did a
um,
cappella in college, right?
I did.
What?
I did.
Yeah.
I've been a chorus kid forever and ever, and did High School Musicals, and then was in an amazing award-winning a cappella group in college.
What was the
That's
group?
The
it's the
Bellas.
G.
I'm just kidding.
I know. Aka what? No, I know.
Excuse me.
No, so I
That's
met
Team
my
Warren
two
Common's
business
favorite
partners.
movie.
Yeah,
Or
that
set of
it?
series of movies.
like if we were gonna have a fan club, like we would be the Pitch Perfect fan club.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Trying to get Anna
It's
Kendrick
just
on
so
the
good,
podcast. Yeah. Anna, join us.
So good. So I met my two business partners in the GW Vibes. It's a funny thing because that group auditions the very first night of college. So once you're in, that kind of like that grounds and anchors your college experience. So that was very much, what my social life and friend group was built around in college.
So the notebook that defined your weirdness in the interview.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that like what was in that notebook? What were you sketching, and how does that play into the vision of, starting an event planning company after having jobs that you were ready to not do for the rest of your life?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
how does that all tie together?
Yeah. So when I was younger, probably like fourth to seventh grade, I was really, really, really into the idea of fashion design. So I had notebooks upon notebooks upon notebooks. And actually, I rediscovered stacks of these in my parents' house when they were moving last year, and was like, oh, I would still wear this shit. I was like, that was good. But I would design outfits, and I was very studious about it. So I'd wake up on Saturday mornings and watch like and take notes about the runway shows and
Wow.
like study the fashion magazines and be like, ooh, Alexander McQueen's new line. So that was, part of my lineup of, kind of Shakespeare and what have you, and then Vogue magazine. And I guess I got a little bit away from fashion specifically as I was getting older, but even now, I mean, not that I'm a big shopper, but I love clothes and the idea of like dressing up and kind of like essentially being able to costume yourself on a daily basis and kind of wear things that reflect how you're feeling or what what you're into at the time. And now with my business, it kind of is the same exercise of using events and the creativity of what we're building here as a way to express something and just kind of build a world or build a universe. And it doesn't have to be something that lasts for a long, long time, but it's something that sticks with someone or creates a memory for them. And then you get to take it off and put on something new the next time.
So what was the dream?
When I was little,
Yeah.
ooh, well, firstly, I really wanted to move to New York. So check, nailed it. That was a big part of the equation, and I've wanted to live in New York probably since I was about 5 or 6 years old and cognizant of what a New York City was. And I think New York is so special and fantastical when you're little. I guess when you live in Richmond, Virginia, as I did, so seeing it in movies and shows, and there's always so glamorous, and where all the big parties and like events are taking place. So I just wanted a piece of that magic. So moving to New York, when I was little, I did, I wanted to be a big name fashion designer and have, runway shows and all the production around that and the hair and makeup and the cameras and, be interviewed on E. um, so it's, again, I feel like where I've grown up and what I do now is a kind of alternative universe to that in a lot of ways.
Do you feel connected to that dream though? Like
I do.
like you're achieving it.
I
Like you're doing
I
something
don't take for
amazing.
granted. I
Yeah.
do not take for granted that a lot of the things that I get to do are very, very special and glamorous. A two-sided coin of being very unglamorous and being very glamorous. So, for example, um, Fashion Week's coming up here next week, and our team has an event in a couple of days for Teen Vogue, where Miss Anna Wintour is showing up. And to me, again, like that's such a moment of like my little Erica self is like, holy shit, like it's a Vogue party and Anna Wintour is going to be there. But the unglamorous part of that is like I'll also be like eating takeout Chinese in the back on cardboard boxes, probably
Yeah.
at some point.
Yeah.
That it's like I'm not like standing next to Anna, but I'll see her with my eyes. Um, but it's super special. And again, something that I'm very cognizant of always is there are a lot of really dream venues that we get to work at and work at a regular basis that I know so intimately and have been like deep in the hallways of, right? So something like the New York Public Library or, a Cipriani's kind of space. It's so like sparkly and spectacular and like storied. And even if you've never set foot in New York City, like what that space is somehow. We're like the Waldorf before that wasn't a thing, but just seeing that and like coming to America,
Yeah.
like having been like had like a personnel only key to that space and I could let myself into any hallway or room that I wanted to. It's such a weird, special thing to be able to do.
Yeah. No doubt.
Yeah.
So it sounds like they're different worlds, but like aesthetic and design, like it's still a part of it, like in a sense, in a way.
Definitely.
So Keith's question, kind of though, like, did you intend to run your own business, or did you dream of running your own business, or where did that come about for you?
I didn't in my young adulthood, graduating college, I didn't really expect to run my own business per se, and definitely not as early in life as I did. I mean, we started the business, I was probably 28 years old. But also, again, going back to being a classic overachiever and being someone that was always like, student council and the class president and blah, 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 like being someone in a leadership position, it also didn't surprise me that that's where this path led me. And the same thing, meeting my two business partners that are very much the same kind of humans that are just extraordinarily, awesomely hard workers and people that know how to get things done. I don't think it came to a shock to any of us that happened. The other fun little anecdote there is that we're all the oldest sister of two girls. So with all self-awareness and love, we also know that have been groomed to be bossy, bossy women.
Yeah, I got a two and a
So
half year old, the one of two,
yeah,
who is
yeah,
being grooming herself
yeah.
very, very, very successfully to be the
Oh
bossiest
yeah.
person in my household.
You
I
used
love
the word
bossy girls.
bossy there,
Bossy
and
girls get things done.
it's it's so having a daughter and I'm getting ready to have another one, and even before having my daughter, I started to recognize this. Using the word bossy,
Uh-huh.
it only happens to women. It does not
I know.
happen to men.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Like
true.
if it's a man in the same scenario, he's a good leader.
Yeah.
He's a
Yeah.
strong leader.
Confident.
He's
Yeah.
very assertive.
confident.
Assertive,
He
yeah.
knows
very
what he's
driven,
looking for.
knows what he
Yeah.
wants. Yeah.
But a
Yeah.
woman's bossy. Like we couch it. Like
Yeah.
I know.
because and it's weird. And I was talking to I had lunch with a coworker the other day, and I was like, man, it's very much like, for me, in my experience being a black man in corporate America, where I got to show up with a bit extra just to be seen as as Keith, for instance, as my white counterparts, like just to be seen as equal. I can only imagine what it's like being a woman, like especially an executive or an owner, where you've got to show up with extra.
Yeah.
Like, and then for somebody to turn around and call you bossy or bitchy, or it's like, wait a second, if a guy does that exact same thing, it's lauded.
Yeah. Yeah, not truly. And I mean, with that in mind, I mean, again, I said it before, like, I love bossy girls, and I love that bossy girls grow up to be bossy women that get things done. So we embrace it. I mean, I don't know that anyone outside of our circle has, at least not to my face, has called us
well
has called us bossy. I mean, at least verbally to to myself with my own ears. I mean, people do note that we, again, are problem solvers. We get things done. We keep things on track. So it's been positioned in a positive way, and it's never had that negative connotation. But again, the way that we speak to our team internally is that it's okay to be bossy as long as you know what you're talking about. And in fact, it's our job to be the leaders on any given project and on site. So if that means someone thinks you're bossy, fine. Like, and this is an interesting thing, is we have a reputation in our industry, and again, I'm knocking on wood that this never changes, but we have a reputation for being good and kind to work with, because we're not bossy in a bitchy or mean way. And
you're
we're
bossy and
actually,
like we know our shit
like,
way.
we know our shit.
Like,
We know our
I need you
shit.
to
We can
move.
back
I
it
need you to
up.
get things done.
Yeah, like this is what
but
needs to
here's why.
happen.
Yeah.
But we're also like we're known for being pretty chill and like laid back, because we know our shit. It's not scrambled. Like, we can have a great chill, good vibes day because our shit is tight. But I had a boss once upon a time in my life before Tinsel that, I was doing my like a 6-month performance review, and a lot of what I had written about myself was that, people that I work with in the agency really like me and like to work with me, which I still to this day, and I think has a lot of value. I just wasn't
Wait, sorry, hold up. That
articulating.
broke
Can
up a
you
little
say
bit.
that
You
again?
said,
Oh, yeah, of course. Sorry, I think my earbud fell out a little bit. Um, but I was saying that in my past life, my job before Tinsel, I had a boss that was leading my 6-month performance review. And what I had written about myself and self-reported was that, a lot of people in the agency like me and like working with me. And even though I think about that still to this day, I think that there has a lot of value in that. I just wasn't articulating it in a way that was valuable to the business.
Mm.
But what she said to me was like, it doesn't matter if people like you, it matters if they respect you. And I was kind of like, isn't that the same thing? And she's like, no. um, so I don't know. I literally, I still think about that.
so how do you think about it now?
All the time. Where I was going with this, because it's still very much how I operate, is the way that I succeed in business is really investing a lot in my relationships and making sure that people know that I'll take care of them, that I'll get things done for them, that I'll make introductions and connect them in a way that's mutually beneficial. And so, for me as a young 20-something, that's where I was going with that in my review, but hadn't really positioned it as, and that ergo, then allows me to be successful in this role because people, you know, get things done for me. She was seeing it just as like, oh, people like to like hang out with you,
Yeah.
or people just like to go to happy
Which is
hour with
common corporate
you.
speak, right? Like,
Yeah, I was
But
like,
it
that's
sounds like in
awesome.
your life, like for you, like and respect are the same. Like the whole not burning bridges. Like for you, being in like with someone that you're working with is
Yeah,
about mutual respect, and it's about
totally,
yeah, it's such an individual.
they're not mutually exclusive
They
terms,
are
by the
not.
way.
No, and like
No.
they
The
can
whole
go
like you
hand
have
in
to be
hand.
respected and feared and not
Yeah.
like
They
that's
can
what
go
the
hand in
words.
hand. Like it matters to me that people like and respect me, right?
Yeah,
Like,
That's how you get a
totally,
president
same.
like the one we have right now.
here we go.
Danger.
We only got 9 minutes left, bro.
Hey, I'm just saying, like
Start
But
it
no,
over.
it's
that
true.
value respect above all. Like that's how Trump
Yeah.
happens.
It's that mindset,
Yeah.
right? Like
Right.
don't care about if people like you. Like I mean, I do, but then you don't need it to be so detrimental to your psyche that you can't proceed and move forward because
Right.
someone doesn't like you at some point.
No,
Someone is going to.
exactly.
What was that
Exactly.
transition like? Like I know we're short, we're coming up on time, but
That's him.
we love talking to entrepreneurs because
Yeah.
we are, and there is especially entrepreneurs who have had that corporate job,
Right.
that space like
Yeah.
we do, and then you had to switch.
Yeah.
Like, what was that like for the three of you? Because I mean, that's
Yeah.
even more complicated because it's three people
It's
having to
three.
do it,
I
right?
know, three journeys. So, I mean, a little bit of universe at work. We're doing Tinsel, first of all, the first 2 years we were doing it on top of our full-time jobs and nights and weekends. And it became a lot. And it got to the point where we were like, holy shit, this is a thing that might actually be a business. It might be viable. So we were starting to put pieces in place to transition. And I was going to be the first one to quit my day job and just float with the business, see what happens. And assuming we'd be successful, then Adette was going to quit her day job 6 months later. Liz is going to ride out her school year, and then we'd all be bajillionaires and successful and whatever. But about 2 months before that go date, I got laid off from my day job and had kind of like a holy shit moment, but also like holy shit.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I can do it. I guess I can do it
Now I got to do something, but awesome.
Yeah,
I got
offered
something to do.
Severance, unemployment.
That's
Excellent.
right. And time.
Yeah, it's like perfect. And then 3 months later, Odette got laid off from her day job.
Oh, wow.
So we took it as a little bit of universe at work and signs that, all right, let's see what happens. And, obviously that was about 7-8 years ago, before the last recession. Shadows of the last recession. So
you heard it here first. Entrepreneurial
it's
strategy.
coming.
Get laid off.
Get laid off. That's
coming.
right.
Just
Take a
like-
severance
just
and
like,
start your own business.
Just like do it. It's
Just
so
saying.
easy and so relaxed.
But
Yeah.
how long were you working on things up to that point? Like doing the
About
burning
2
the candle?
years.
Oh, wow.
About 2 years. And again, part of that, the first year was like, what is our business called? We should probably get incorporated. Let's put a website up and see if someone wants to pay us money.
Yeah.
So it really was, maybe a year that we were actually we brought on clients and people were actually paying us to do things and just figuring out our process and what have you. And what I wanted to say too is to fast forward to where we are now when answering that same question, Keith, is a big challenge of where we are now that the business has matured and we've got team members that we have to remain accountable for, is as the business has grown up, we've had to kind of harken back to more of the corporate business processes and lifestyles that when we first started, we were like, we're not corporate, like celebrating that and, being independent and being able to kind of do things your own way.
Right? You didn't,
Yeah, but and that works when there are three of you and you're kind of like, sweet, who needs rules? Like, we
Who
work for
needs
ourselves. We don't
HR
need
and-
office hours at HR.
Yeah.
But now that we have other team members, we've had to really reconcile how do we still stay, a small agile company and be independent and a fresh place to work, but also have rules and standards and procedures. So, when people have vacation days, what does that look like? Do they need to report it out?
What was
what
the
is
tipping point for y'all? Like what number employee did that start becoming important for you?
Well, when besides the three of us partners, we brought on four full-time people at the same time. So that was absolutely the like, oh, now it's not just us. Now we've got
Oh, so
an
like that
actual
was like at
company.
the beginning, like
Wow.
right away?
No, 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 no. So that was 2016. So 2000, we started the business in 2010. And then over the course of the years, had a few freelance and project-based people, but 2016 is when we had our first
Mm.
full-timers, and that was really the tipping point into making us like, okay, this is a real thing, and we need real processes, and have to be a touch of corporate.
And you know, and it's funny because even, I mean, we do it all the time when you work for a company, and we often, corporate, but you know,
Mm,
you start your own thing and you build that. It's a natural evolution. Culture is the
yeah,
great equalizer, right? If you
yeah,
have the right culture that establishes, people accept the corporate
hmm,
because
yeah,
they're in the culture that they want to be a part of. So,
yeah. No, totally.
but we have 3 minutes left.
Yeah.
It's flown by.
Sadly,
Yeah.
There's so many other things that we have to leave on the table
I have
right now.
questions written down.
But there's one last question that we can't go away without asking.
All right, hit me.
What would you leave? What do you want to leave your audience now, with to think about, to ponder
Oh,
on?
ooh. Um, Again, I guess since culture is really the hot topic, and we've talked a lot about what that means and values, I the twofold question. First part is what parts of your current culture, and whether that's at a company or even, in your household with your family, what parts of the culture feel really right and matter and have a big impact? And then the second piece of that is what do you think needs to change or be added to be more beneficial and productive?